The Garden of Gentle Hearts. In the bustling town of Annecy, young Benoit was known for his big dreams and his very short fuse. He spent his afternoons in his father's workshop, trying to build a grand wooden birdhouse. But every time a nail went crooked or a board slipped, Benoit would throw his hammer down in a huff. "It's no use," he would shout, his face turning as red as a ripe apple. He wanted everything to be perfect right away, and when it wasn't, his heart felt like a stormy sea. One sunny afternoon, Benoit sat on a stone bench in the cathedral garden, brooding over his latest failed project. A shadow fell across the grass, and a man with a kind face and a gentle smile sat down beside him. It was Francis, the local bishop whom everyone loved for his peaceful spirit. Francis didn't scold Benoit for his grumpy look. Instead, he simply watched the butterflies dancing over the lavender bushes. "The sun doesn't rush the flowers to bloom, Benoit," Francis said softly. "Why are you trying to rush your heart?" Francis leaned forward, his eyes sparkling with a quiet joy. "You see, Benoit, our souls are like gardens. If we stomp around in anger every time a weed grows, we only pack the dirt down harder. To grow something beautiful, we must practice patience." Benoit looked up, curious despite himself. "But how do I stop being angry when things go wrong?" he asked. Francis chuckled. "By being as gentle with yourself as you would be with a tiny, wounded bird. That is the beginning of a devout life." Francis pointed to a nearby fountain where the water was still and clear. "When the water is choppy, you cannot see your reflection," he explained. "This is why we need meekness. Meekness isn't being weak. It is being the master of your own storm. When someone is unkind or when a task is hard, stay as still as that water. Then you will see clearly what to do next." Benoit looked at the water and saw his own reflection, finally looking a bit calmer. A honeybee landed on a bright yellow marigold nearby. Francis guided Benoit's gaze toward it. "The bee collects nectar from the flowers, but it does so without breaking the petals," Francis said. "This is how we should move through the world. We can be firm in what is right, but we must always be sweet in our delivery. A spoonful of honey, as they say, catches more flies than 100 barrels of vinegar. Gentleness is a power that wins hearts without breaking them." "And what about being the best?" Benoit asked, thinking of the other boys who bragged about their crafts. Francis reached down and picked up a tiny, humble violet hidden under a large leaf. "This little flower doesn't try to be a tall lily or a bright rose. It is happy to be a violet, giving off its scent right where God planted it. This is humility, Benoit. It is knowing who you are, no more and no less, and being happy to serve in small ways. You don't need to be the greatest to be the most loved." The next day, Benoit was back in the workshop. He was trying to glue the roof of the birdhouse when his younger sister, Alara, came running in. She tripped over a scrap of wood and bumped the table, sending the birdhouse crashing to the floor. The roof snapped into 3 pieces. For a moment, the old heat rose up in Benoit's chest. His fists clenched, and he opened his mouth to yell at his sister, who looked like she was about to cry. But then, Benoit remembered the calm fountain. He remembered the bee and the tiny violet. He took a deep, slow breath, feeling the stormy sea inside him start to settle. He looked at Alara and realized she was more important than a pile of wood. He forced his hands to unclench. He chose to be like the still water. "It's okay, Alara," he whispered to himself, feeling a strange new strength in his quiet voice. Benoit knelt down beside Alara and gave her a small smile. "It was an accident," he said gently, helping her to her feet. Alara wiped her eyes and hugged him. "I'm sorry, Benoit," she chirped. Instead of a day ruined by a fight, they spent the afternoon working together. Benoit taught her how to hold the wood steady while he glued the pieces back. It took longer, but his heart felt light and happy, just like the butterflies in Francis's garden. Later that week, Francis saw Benoit in the garden again. This time, the boy wasn't brooding. He was sitting quietly, carving a small wooden violet to give to his mother. Francis smiled and nodded. "You are learning, Benoit," the bishop said. "The devout life is not about doing one big heroic thing. It is about doing many small things with great love and a gentle spirit." Benoit smiled back, finally understanding that the most beautiful thing he could ever build was a peaceful heart.